تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. So before we begin, the brothers who are sitting in some different city over there, come to Sheffield over here, instead of being so far away. Today, we're going to start on the topic of the companions. The companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba. So firstly, we need to define who the companions are. What is a companion? Who are the Sahaba? So, in regards to the definition of what a companion is, it is man laqiya an-nabiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mu'minan bihi wa mata ala dhalika. It is somebody who met the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, somebody who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believing in him as a believer and died upon Islam, even if he apostated in between. Make a note of that definition of who a companion is. It is somebody who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believing in him and died upon Islam, even if he apostated in between. To break down that definition, it is somebody who met the Prophet. Man laqiya nabi. Man, this word in Arabic is lil-aqil. Man laqiya. So that excludes anything else from the trees or the stones or anything else. It excludes all of the ghayr al-aqil. Man laqiya nabi. Man lil-aqil. So we're talking about the people, those who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, somebody who met the Messenger. And the reason why we don't say somebody who saw the Messenger, why don't we say that? That a companion is somebody who saw the Messenger. Man ra'a an-nabiyya sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why do we not say that? Because there are some companions who were blind. They never saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فلا نقول من رأى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. نقول من لقي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So we don't say somebody who saw the Messenger. We say somebody who met the Messenger. Because there were some companions who were blind and so they never saw the Messenger, but they met him. So man laqiya, whoever met. And this liqa, does it have to be a long time that he met the Messenger for 5 years, for 10 years he was with him? Or can it just be one meeting? It could be just one meeting. He met the Messenger once. He came across the Messenger once. That's enough. It doesn't have to be that he was with the messenger for many months or many years. That is not a condition. So whoever met من لقي النبي ولا نقول من لقي محمد. We say من لقي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Why do we say that a companion is someone who met the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, and we don't say a companion is someone who met Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم? Why? Because the Sahabi من لقي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم بعد بعثته. A companion is going to be someone who met the messenger after he became a messenger, a prophet. As for somebody who met the prophet before he became a prophet, then that's outside. So the definition of a companion is somebody who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning he met Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam after he had become a prophet, not before he had become a prophet. He became a prophet at the age of 40, 40 sana. He was 40 years old at the time when he became a prophet. So, man laqiya an-nabiyya sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whoever met the prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, mu'minan bihi, that this person who met the prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this person had to be a Muslim at the time, because there were some people who met the Prophet but they were not believers at the time. They were not believers at the time. All of those mushrikun, the Quraysh, they met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Are they Sahaba? Of course not, because they were not mu'minan bihi. They were not believers in him. That therefore is important in the definition, that it is someone who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam believing in him. To exclude all of those kuffar, the Quraysh, the mushrikun, the munafiqun, who all met the Prophet, but they were not believers in him, and that's why they are not Sahaba, they are not companions. So, man laqiya an-nabiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mu'minan bihi wa mata ala dhalik. And then for that person to be classified as a companion, he has to then actually die upon Islam, because there were some examples of people who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam believing in him, but then they apostated, irtaddu, and then they died upon kufr, upon disbelief. And so would they be classified as companions? No. You have to die as a believer. But what if a person met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam believing in him, but then he apostated, but then he became Muslim again and died upon Islam? Sahabi or not? So remember, this person A, he came and met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and person A at the time was a Muslim when he met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this person A, after meeting the messenger, ended up at some time apostating. But then he came back to Islam. And he never met the messenger again and died upon Islam. So he was Muslim twice in his life. The first time when he was Muslim, he met the messenger during that time. Then he apostated. Then he became Muslim again at the end of his life and died as a Muslim, but he never met the messenger in that time when he became Muslim again. Only the first time. Is he a companion or not?
Yes, he's a
Companion? Inshallah? No?
I don't know.
Anyone? Is he a companion or not? His companion? We have one fatwa is companion, another one here companion. Anybody else? We haven't heard the Somali fatwa yet. What's the fatwa? Is he a companion or not? Companion? Okay, we have it. Companion. This is a difference of opinion. Some scholars, يعني في خلاف. Some scholars they say he's a companion. Because when he met the messenger the first time, he was a Muslim at the time. And even though he apostated, at the end, he came back and died as a Muslim. So in the afterlife, he will be raised up as a Muslim. So they say it's okay, he's a companion then. Others they say no, he apostated. And then when he became Muslim, because when you apostate, then all of your actions have been destroyed. Kufr and shirk. All of his actions finished, destroyed. So then when he became Muslim again, it's like brand new now. And when he became Muslim again, did he meet the messenger again? No. So some of them said, okay, we can't say he's a companion then. But the strongest opinion, al-rajih, that he is a companion. And that's why Al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar, he mentioned in his ta'rif, in his definition of a companion, man laqiya an-nabiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mu'minan bihi wa mata ala dhalika wa in takhallalat birriddah. Even if in between he apostated, as long as he had met the Prophet before when he was a believer, and then he reverted again and died as a believer, that apostasy in between does not affect his status as a companion. That is therefore the definition of who a companion is. How many companions were there in total? That is, again, there are different numbers that are mentioned. عدد الصحابة قال كعب ابن مالك رضي الله عنه في غزوة تبوك والمسلمون مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كثير لا يجمعهم كتاب حافظ يريد الديوان وجاء في كتب السير أنهم في تلك الغزوة ما بين 30 و40. It's mentioned in some of the books of history that in the Battle of Tabuk there were between 30 and 40,000. Between 30 and 40,000. وروي عن الشافعي أن الصحابة جميعا 60,000. And it's narrated from Al-Imam al-Shafi'i that there were 60,000 companions. وعن أبي زرعة روايتان 14,100,000 114,000 وعشرون و100,000 and 120,000. So there are different narrations as to how many companions there were exactly, but there were thousands. Without a doubt, there were thousands of the companions. So now you understand who a companion is. someone who met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, believing in him and died as a Muslim. This therefore excludes the rocks and the trees and the stones that might have been there at that time. They are not companions because they are not intellectual. Condition to be a companion is intellectual. Stones and trees and rocks that were there at the time, they are not. And secondly, to meet the messenger. So anybody who never met the messenger, never came to the messenger, never had any kind of gathering with the messenger, then that individual is not considered a companion if they never came across the messenger. There were many Muslims at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam who never actually met him, never saw him, never met him. They used to live outside of Medina, away in other areas, in other lands. Many Muslims, they never actually met the messenger and they were alive at the time of the messenger. So they won't be classified as companions. They never met the messenger, had to meet him to be a companion. And you had to be a believer at the time. So that excludes all of the mushrikun, the Quraysh, the munafiqun. They all met the messenger, but they didn't believe in him. So they are all excluded. And you have to die upon Islam. So that excludes anybody who apostated and never returned back to Islam. But if you returned back to Islam, then the strongest opinion is you are still a companion. That is the definition of a companion. So can the jinn be companions? They are aqil, huh? They are aqil, they are from the intelligent, intellectual, they're in that definition. Did some of them meet the Prophet, believing in him? Muslims, died upon Islam, yes.
So what about Jibreel alayhi salam?
We'll come to that in a minute. First do the jinn. Are the jinn companions or not then?
They meet him because you said jinn. Does the jinn meet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam?
Well, there are some narrations. There are some narrations about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the jinn. It's possible, yes. So what if, because we know the jinn, so they could be companions. Some of the jinn can be companions. And the jinn, do they live longer than humans? No. So what if a jinni comes in now and says that he is a companion? If a jinni walks in now and says he is a companion, they live longer than humans. He says, I was there at the time, 1400 years ago. I was there with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm a Muslim. I was a Muslim then too, and I met him. I am a companion. What are you going to do? If you haven't already run away afraid and scared and screaming, what are you going to do? He says he's a companion. Proof. But he says, I'm a jinni. Jinn can live a long time maybe. He says, I was there. Believe me, I was there. I'm a Muslim. I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can you refute this claim? Can you?
I agree with my son.
Show the proof. He says, look, the jinn, we live a long time. We live a long time and I was there. But is there some other way? If he says, look, believe me, I'm a Muslim, are you calling me a liar? Huh? Maybe he can describe, no problem. We can describe now. We read all the books of Seerah. We can all describe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We read in the books what he looked like. That's easy, he can do that. He gives you the description. Now what are you going to do?
You make it difficult.
How?
Chains of narration. Chains of narration.
Not necessarily. Not all of the companions narrated hadith. Not all of them narrated hadith.
I feel like the companions were from
No, it can be jinn. It can be jinn. Jinn were there. They were there.
Like to convey the message after the generations.
But that's not a condition. It's not a condition that they then had to convey the message of the messenger. Not all of the companions narrated hadith, etc. That's not a condition to be a companion.
Just the jinn and human, you cannot believe some, I don't know how to say it, but you cannot interact,
They cannot interact, but the jinn, they were there. There are hadith about the jinn. One time the messenger, he tied up a jinn to the pillar of the mosque, and there are narrations.
But we never see jinn narrating from Prophet.
No, you don't have to narrate. To be a companion, you don't have to narrate. Riwayah. The riwayah is not a condition. So it looks like that's it. We're going to have a companion here then. There is an evidence to prove this jinni wrong. There is a hadith. There is a hadith where the Prophet, it's in Bukhari I think, when the Prophet ﷺ said, and he said this just a year before he died or just a few months before he died. He said, along the lines of مَا مِن نَفْسٍ مَنْفُوسَةٍ, that there is not any soul that is breathing today. And this was when the messenger was just before he died, a few months before he died, so 10 Hijri, 11 Hijri, right at the end. He said, there is not a soul breathing on the earth today who will be alive 100 years from now. Hadith. So every person who was alive at that time, in the final year of the Prophet ﷺ, they had passed away at the maximum of 100 years after that, including any of the jinn. Hadith. So we know for sure a jinni cannot come along and say that he is a Sahabi. We know even if they were, none of them survived beyond 100 years. So basically the year 110. Right now we're in 1445, 1446 coming. In the year 110 Hijri, after that no more companions. And that's why we know as well, the last companion who died in 110 Hijri. It's in the books of history. In the books of history you'll find it. The last companion who died in the year 110 Hijri. The majority of the companions had died by 60, 70 Hijri. 60 Hijri, 70 Hijri, 80 Hijri. The majority had died. In Medina, all of them had died by then. But there was one companion who did live up until 110 Hijri. He was the last companion to die. Anybody know his name? Not Anas ibn Malik. He lived a long time, but it wasn't him. That's the homework for this week. Homework for this week. Let's see who can find the name of the last companion who died. The last companion who died. That is your homework. The problem is these days homework is so easy, everybody just has Google Sheikh and you find the answers too easy. But still, let's see. The homework is find the name of the last companion who died and tell us something about him. I'll give you a little story about him. He was, when the Prophet ﷺ did Hajj, how many times did the Messenger do Hajj in his life? Just once, in the last year before he died. In that year, in the last year when he died, so 10 Hijri, etc., he was doing the Hajj. This companion, whose name we're not going to mention, you're going to find out, he was a small child at that time. He was a child. And he says, I remember seeing the Prophet ﷺ on his donkey doing the tawaf around the Kaaba, or something along those lines, that he remembers seeing the Messenger doing the Hajj, and he was a small child in those days. Had to be, if he died in 110 Hijri and he saw the Messenger in 10 Hijri, he was a small child then, so he must have lived over 100 years. He was maybe 105, 110 when he died, because he must have been 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever he was at the time when he saw the messenger. That's what he mentions in his own biography. So that is your homework. Find the name of the last companion who passed away, who died. Huh? Jabir ibn Abdullah. Wrong. So now find the name. It was not Jabir ibn Abdullah. So going back to the book here then. Remember all of this we're doing it from Al-Aqidah Al-Wasitiyyah, the book of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. So in this section now he says, فَصْلٌ فِي مَوْقِفِ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ وَالْجَمَاعَةِ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. The position of ahlu-sunnah wal-jamā'ah regarding the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What do we believe about the companions? What is our position regarding the companions? Because you know, there are people out there, the Khawarij, the Shia, many of them, they have all these strange positions regarding the companions. Some of the Khawarij, many of them, they all declare many of the companions to be kuffar. They declare many of them to be kuffar. You have the Azariqah, the followers of Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, one of the Khawarij. One of the Khawarij, his name was Nafi' ibn al-Azraq. And all of his followers are known as the Azariqah, Ta'ifa min al-Khawarij. And this man, Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, was alive at the time of Abdullah ibn Zubair, radiyallahu anhu. And he fought, قاتل مع Abdullah ibn Zubair ضد أهل الشام. He fought alongside Abdullah ibn Zubair against the people of Sham. But after that, this individual, Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, he came to Abdullah ibn Zubair. One day Abdullah ibn Zubair was sitting with some people, and this man, Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, came to Abdullah ibn Zubair. And he said to him, what is your position regarding Uthman ibn Affan, radiyallahu anhu, and the khulafa who came after him, Ali ibn Abi Talib, etc. What is your position regarding them? Abdullah ibn Zubair, when he got this question from Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, and he had all his people with him, the Khawarij basically, Abdullah ibn Zubair looked around, and there were not many of his companions with him. There were only a few of his companions with him. So he said to this Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, come back after Isha or come back later on in the evening, then we'll discuss. So the man Nafi' said, okay, they went. Abdullah ibn Zubair then called all of the other companions, called all of the others, and he said to them, come tonight and bring your weapons with you. Come tonight and bring your weapons with you. And so they came with their weapons. And Nafi' ibn al-Azraq walked in again that evening, and he saw them all sitting there with their weapons. And it's not like you can conceal the weapons in those days, the huge swords and everything. He saw the whole gathering, and straight away he knew Abdullah ibn Zubair is not with him, with Nafi'. Because Nafi' and the Khawarij, they declare Uthman to be a kafir. They declare him to be a kafir. So as soon as he walked in, he knew what was going on. But he still said to him, he said, okay, what do you say about Uthman ibn Affan? Abdullah ibn Zubair replied to him, he said, that ana waliyu ibn Affan. I am the wali, I am the supporter, the defender of Uthman ibn Affan and the other khulafa who came after him. So now he could tell him the position clearly and openly. Everybody was there, they had their weapons in case these Khawarij tried to attack or do anything. So the Khawarij, Nafi' ibn al-Azraq, saw the gathering, heard his response, and he said to him, this Khariji said to Abdullah ibn Zubair, may Allah be free of you. Abdullah ibn Zubair replied to him, may Allah be free of you. You are the enemy of Allah. And so Nafi' ibn al-Azraq left, departed, and all of his group, the Khawarij, they left. But this is the position they take. That's just an example of the story. That they declare Uthman ibn Affan and others from the companions to be kuffar. They declare them to be disbelievers. So it's important for us to understand as ahlu-sunnah, how do we view the companions? What do we think about the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? فقوله قول شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية ومن أصول أهل السنة والجماعة أي من أسس عقيدتهم سلامة قلوبهم وألسنتهم لأصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. From our foundations in our Aqidah, from the principles in our Aqidah, is that we have a purity in our hearts and upon our tongues in regards to the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is purity in our hearts and our tongues, meaning we do not hold any evil thoughts, any type of evil in our hearts against any of the companions. Neither do we say anything evil upon our tongues against any of the companions. That is our Aqidah, he mentions. وَلَمْ يَقُلْ وَأَفْعَالِهِمْ لأن الأفعال متعذرة بعد موت الصحابة. نعم, this is just explanation. فمن أصول أهل السنة والجماعة سلامة قلوبهم وألسنتهم لأصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سلامة القلب من البغض والغل والحقد والكراهة وسلامة ألسنتهم من كل قول لا يليق بهم. So we have sound hearts. We do not have any type of hatred against any of the companions, any type of enmity or envy or any type of evil feeling, any type of hatred against the companions, and our tongues are sound. We do not say or speak of any evil against the companions. قلوبهم سالمة من ذلك مملوءة بالحب والتقدير والتعظيم لأصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Our hearts are filled with love and reverence and respect for the companions of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. فهم يحبون أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So we love the companions of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. وَنُفَضِّلُهُمْ عَلَى جَمِيعِ الْخَلْقِ. And we recognize that the companions have the highest status from all of mankind after the prophets and messengers, of course. After the prophets and messengers, we know that the companions of the Prophet, they are the best of all of mankind. They are the best of all of mankind after the prophets and messengers. لأن محبتهم من محبة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Because loving them is loving the messenger. You love the companions, that is a sign of you loving the messenger. Because the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم told us, خير الناس قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. The best of the people or the best of the generations are my generation. Best of the people are my generation. And his generation are the Sahaba, the companions. وألسنتنا أيضا سالمة من السب والشتم واللعن والتفسيق والتكفير وما أشبه ذلك مما يأتي به أهل البدع. So our tongues are safe and sound in regards to the companions. There is no abuse, no cursing, no declaring them to be evildoers or non-Muslims. We do not say anything of that like regarding the companions. It's very important to remember that, because many people out there today, they curse the companions. They curse the companions and they speak evil of the companions. One of our teachers in Medina, when we were in the university, they told us that a true story, that some of the Shia, they want to teach their children to hate Abu Bakr and Umar, etc. They want to teach their children to hate Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhuma. So how do they teach their kids to hate them? True story, our teacher told us. He said some of them, the Shia, they will buy their small children, 5 years old, 6 years old, they will buy them a pet, like a rabbit or a hamster, guinea pig, something. They will buy them a pet. And that small child, 5 years old, 6 years old, loves his pet and strokes his pet and feeds his pet. Every day plays with his pet. Every day loves it. The small child will be very attached and loves his pet. Then after maybe a few months, or a year, when that child has become so attached to his pet and plays with it all the time and everything, one night they come, true story, one night they come and they will get a knife and chop up that pet, that rabbit or hamster or whatever it is, with the knife, chopped up, bleeding, everything all a mess. The child, when he comes down that morning, then they do that at night, when the child comes down the next morning and he sees that sight, he's going to be absolutely destroyed inside, completely finished. When he sees that somebody has done this to his pet, he's going to be completely finished inside. And then his parents tell him, and he's still a small child, 5, 6 years old yet, his parents tell him, our child, it was last night Abu Bakr and Umar came and did this to your pet. Abu Bakr and Umar, they came and did this to your pet. So now the child will grow up with a hatred in his heart against Abu Bakr and Umar. So when he grows up and he understands a bit more, they can tell him easily, Abu Bakr and Umar were disbelievers, they were kuffar, they were this, they were that. And he already has a hatred in his heart believing from when he was a child this story. And this is how they try to indoctrinate them from a young age, from these types of stories. And it's true, our teacher told us he knows this of some of the Shia. So it's very important we understand the correct belief regarding the companions. And not even the Shia, even some of the Ikhwanis and other people, they speak bad of the companions. And they try to give you examples from the companions when they fell into error and they fell into this mistake and that mistake. And they want to try and use the companions and their mistakes as justification for their own mistakes. And that is not what we do. We don't talk about the companions, or they had this disagreement and they had this argument and this happened and that happened and they fell into this error. We don't talk about the companions in that way. So why are the companions so virtuous? We'll mention 4 points why they are so virtuous. Number 1, أنهم خير القرون في جميع الأمم كما صرح بذلك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حين قال خير الناس قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. That the companions, after the prophets and messengers, the companions are the best of all of mankind. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he had his companions. Musa alayhi salam had his all the messengers, prophets had their people with them. But from all of those different nations, from all of those different people, the ones who are with the Prophet ﷺ, they are the best of all of them. They are the best of all of the nations that went by. Better than everybody else after the prophets and messengers. And that's because the messenger said, the best of the people, all of the people, are my generation. قرني, meaning the companions. Secondly, ثانيا, أنهم هم الواسطة بين رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وبين أمته, فمنهم تلقت الأمة عنه الشريعة. The second reason why the companions are so virtuous is because all of this religion has been conveyed to us via the companions. They are the ones who learnt all of this religion from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were his students, and then they were the ones who spread it and taught their students, and they taught their students, and they taught their students, until our time now. You have the scholars, and those chains of narration, they exist up until today. Up until today, many chains of narration where you have learnt something from your shaykh, and he learnt it from his shaykh, and he learnt it from his shaykh, he learnt it from his shaykh, 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 who was a companion, who learnt it from the Prophet. They exist to this day. Chains of narration directly to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To this day, many people, it's so easy to get the valid ones. Many people out there, they claim it, but the valid ones are registered, known, the chains of narration going up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Up until recently, there was a teacher in the Haram, in Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, who used to teach Quran. He was a Quran teacher, and he had been taught Quran by his shaykh, who had been taught by his shaykh, up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Direct, well known. He was in the Haram, Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, he used to teach. He was taught by his shaykh, up to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there was only maybe, I don't remember, maybe 20 people, 25 people or something, between him and the messenger, something like that. And these chains of narration, they exist. Now you go to Medina, there are many teachers. When we were there in the University of Medina, many teachers, they have those chains of narration, and you can go to the classes where they teach you with the chain of narration. There was one individual, he was teaching Sahih al-Bukhari with a chain of narration, meaning he had been taught, or he had read through all of Bukhari to his shaykh had done it with his shaykh had done it with his shaykh, his shaykh, up to Al-Imam Al-Bukhari himself. And then Al-Imam Al-Bukhari narrated all of those hadith from his shaykh to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is widespread, it exists. These chains of narration. So that's the second thing. The companions, they conveyed the religion to us. Thirdly, from the virtues of the companions, ما كان على أيديهم من الفتوحات الواسعة العظيمة. All of the conquering of the lands that occurred. Islam began in Medina, or established in Medina. Medina, one small place. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Medina was just basically where all the hotels are now. You see the mosque, you see all the hotels, that was Medina, that's it. Now it's expanded and become much bigger, but in the olden days it began as that small little center, just around the hotels, a bit more further out, small area was Medina. And then it became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Islam was just there, and then it spread and spread, and it spread to the lands of Sham and to Egypt and to other Gulf area, and beyond that when the conquerings occurred. So that is also from the virtues of the companions, especially in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab and then Uthman ibn Affan. Many conquering of lands occurred, futuhat. And fourthly, أنهم نشروا الفضائل بين هذه الأمة من الصدق والنصح والأخلاق والآداب التي لا توجد عند غيرهم ولا يعرف هذا من كان يقرأ عنهم من وراء جدر بل لا يعرف هذا إلا من عاش في تاريخهم وعرف مناقبهم وفضائلهم وإيثارهم واستجابتهم لله ولرسوله. The fourth thing that we benefit from the great virtues of the companions is the great etiquettes and manners that we learnt from them, from their truthfulness, from their sincerity, from their good manners and etiquettes that you will never find in anyone besides the companions. You will not find it in other people. The level that the companions were upon in their uprightness, in their dignity. These days that is lost. These days the people do not have dignity, they have treachery, they have betrayal, they have deceit. But the companions, they were honorable people, honorable with dignity. That's how they lived, with honor and dignity. And so that is also something we learnt from them. So that is the opening section regarding the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فنحن نشهد الله عز وجل على محبة هؤلاء الصحابة ونثني عليهم بألسنتنا بما يستحقون ونبرأ من طريقين ضالين طريق الروافض الذين يسبون الصحابة ويغلون في آل البيت ومن طريق النواصب الذين يبغضون آل البيت. So we ahlu-sunnah love all of the companions, and we are not like those who are like the Rafidah who abuse and curse the companions, but they have exaggeration in the family of the Prophet. Neither the Nawasib who hate the family of the Prophet. There are a group of them known as the Nawasib. They hate the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. نرى أن لآل البيت إذا كانوا صحابة ثلاثة حقوق. The companions from the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they have the three rights: حق الصحبة وحق الإيمان وحق القرابة من رسول الله. The companions from the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they have three virtues or three rights. They were companions, they have the right of companionship. They were believers, they have the right of Iman, our brothers, believers. And they have the right of being relatives and close to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is where we'll conclude on for this opening section regarding the companions. And there's a lot more to come. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue going through that next week. At the same time again, we'll try and begin around 6:15 inshallah ta'ala.